Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. We're covering a new show that just premiered on last week. It's entitled Divorced Sistas. This is another production from Tyler Perry, currently streaming on BET Plus. I'm letting you know I think I'm locked in after watching the first two episodes. But I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video and also subscribe to my channel. You can also leave your opinions and your thoughts down below. Now let's get into these episodes. Okay, so we're finding out that Divorced Sisters is a spin-off from Sistas that has been highly successful on the BET network. There's already one spin-off, which is Zatima, which is one of my favorite shows. That I currently review, so you can go through my playlist and you can watch that. I think Zatima is currently airing on BET. It does air normally on BET Plus, but right now they're showing it on BET. They're almost at the last leg of season 3. But anyways, Divorced Sisters is about a group of women that are dealing with relationships specifically. I find it to be a lot more dramatic than being some type of dramedy like Sistas is. But of course, we see LaToya Luckett, and I also recognize Kadeen Ellis, but I don't believe she's going by her last name. It's by her middle name, which I don't know. But Kadeen Ellis is the wife of Devale Ellis, whom we know as Zach from Sistas and also Zatima. But she's holding her own. Those are the two I recognize as far as the main women. However, the other actresses are, to me, doing a great job. Excuse me. But the friend group consists of Rashida, Tiffany, Geneva, Naomi, and Bridget. Rashida, she is the wife and first lady to Pastor Jeff. She's a powerful woman within her local church. Bridget, she is Rashida's assistant, as well a friend within this friendship group. Geneva, which is played by Kadeen. Rashida is played by LaToya Luckett. She's a high-profile lawyer married to husband William with a daughter named Anika. There's two that actually are currently going through a divorce. Others are having other relationship and marriage struggles. But Tiffany and Naomi. Tiffany, who got divorced from John, has been divorced for 3 years, and she had to pay John alimony. Now, Naomi, who got divorced from Franklin, got a hefty alimony share. She got a 37 million property share and all that. Tiffany and Naomi are dealing with their divorces differently. I mean, there's different outcomes. Naomi comes off as very resentful and kind of just, because she's hurt, she hurts other people. And a lot of people are within the friend group are quite getting intolerant of her because of how she acts and how she behaves towards them and all that good stuff. But Naomi is still hanging on to her marriage that's over. So we start off the episode 1 with Tiffany and Geneva. They are outside of Anika's school and they're picking her up. This is Geneva's child. While there, they talk about that there's a trip that Geneva and William are going to be going on. Anika will be taking care of Geneva, and Geneva's picking up that, who's going to be taking care of? Tiffany's going to be taking care of Anita. Sorry about that. While Geneva and William are gone. Geneva is picking up because she said, well, you've been divorced for 3 years and have not gone on a date. Is taking care of Anika another distraction to keep you from dealing with your emotions and wanting to have any type of a life after divorce? Now, Tiffany does have a life. Her social life is amongst her friends. She's a realtor, and her child, I believe, is college bound right now. But she doesn't have like a dating life and all that good stuff. Tiffany said, no, I'm glad to help you out, and you guys need this vacation anyways. So when they get around to the school, not to the school, but when it's time to actually pick up Anika, one of the teachers greet Geneva. Geneva really does not participate with the school because of her job. and William is the one that usually picks up Anita and all that. And they were saying it's so good to see that both parents are participating in the child's life as far as with school and all that. Geneva arrives at her home. She has Tiffany with her, and Naomi's waiting on her because Naomi has asked for Geneva to sue Franklin over some frivolous stuff. And Geneva's like, look, there's no reason to sue. And Naomi's ready to fire her. Geneva's like, why don't you just accept the settlement you got and move on? But the thing is that Naomi's not settled with the settlement. Not like she wants more. I think that it looks like she had her whole identity in this man and just really can't accept that this dude has moved on. And we find out later that this dude moved on with a white woman. So that's kind of just insult to injury, especially in the black community. Two things that'll probably be insulting if a man leaves a woman. If he goes with a white girl and then he turns out to be gay. That's how it is. Yeah, her motivation's not money. Okay, so Naomi has also hired this escort named Hakeem. He's played by Mr. Michael Boloware. I know that he has a role on All the Queen's Men that stars Eva. What's her last name? Eva from Housewives and American Top Model. I know he's over there, but I guess now this is a more serious role. But anyways, Naomi wants her fantasies and how she wants sex to be done, which is more dominatrix. She puts this dog collar on him and is choking him and they having sex and all that. That's something that satisfies her. And she loves being in this dominant role with this dude. She ends up choking him and all that. However, conversations kind of shift. When he arrived there, he was quite observant, and you could call him judgy at how he was asking different questions, enjoying the decor of her home. And she was like, what, are you gay? I'm like, that's so stereotypical. Because it's like, you could be stereotypical. But then when Hakeem says, well, you really living like this on your own? She said, yeah. You don't think a woman could earn all of this? And he said, no. Like, you ain't got no man, all this stuff. She was insulted by that, but he says, look, you paid for a service and I'm gonna give it to you. They have sex. Later on, she's trying to get into, I guess, trying to hack into some system. Michael is very fluent in that, and he hacks into the system, and now she is able to follow Franklin's girlfriend and all that good stuff. So it looks like they are going to be an interesting duel as she finally gets something new in her life. But of course, she's going to play the tough girl and all that good stuff against Hakeem. So Geneva and Tiffany and Anika finally make it into their home. They're talking a little bit about Naomi. Tiffany, I think, heard from Bridget that at this there's going to be this banquet, which I'll talk about in a minute, that it looks like Franklin is going to be invited to. And someone said, did someone tell Naomi yet? You know, because it's going to be crazy. Anyway, Anika is playing with her dolls right there, and she ends up reenacting something that she saw. And she said, for one of the dolls was talking to the other one, damn, you are fine. And of course, Geneva says, where did you hear that from? What's going on? You don't talk like that. And she said, well, Daddy says it to the pretty lady at school. And she said, who? What? Where? One of my friends, Maddie, her mom is who she says it to. You want me to stop? She said, that's not something to say. You don't say that. You want me to stop saying that, but that's what Daddy says. I was like, ooh. So this sets Geneva off. And Tiffany's trying to calm her down, said, look, don't go down this road. You may not like what you find, you know, and he may not be cheating or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Could be just some flirting, you know. But anyways, Tiffany was saying, look, you're just like Naomi, but you play it more cute. You go down these rabbit holes and become obsessed and all that good stuff when you are confronted and baited with something. So anyways, she goes on her own little mission. Geneva does. She first calls the school to see if she can get some information on Maddie's parents. The administrator was not budging at all, and that was that. Well, she goes to the school and was able to get a janitor's attention. She tells the janitor, you know, I need to get into the classroom to get this teddy bear for my daughter. That's the only way that I can have peace in my home, if we get this teddy bear. So it was just a plot and scheme. So she's asking the janitor, do you know Maddie and Maddie's mom? And she ends up giving clues as to who the parents are. And the mom is a yoga instructor and has this yoga place where it's spelled backwards. And I forgot how to pronounce it, but basically it's Agoy. And that's what she spells it as. So finally, she's able to move on and go on to her investigation to see if William is actually cheating or not. Rashida, she's having a meeting with her administrator and also Jeff, the pastor, in regards to a banquet. They are arguing over this and that. Jeff says that he invited Franklin, and Rashida was like, I don't think that's good, because Naomi's going to be there. And Jeff is like, well, she needs to grow up, because he's going to be there. So obviously some of the dudes on the show have some type of bond. I mean, we don't know how long that these folks have been friends or whatever, but obviously the guys are standing up for the guys in this whole situation. But there was this undermining that Jeff was doing towards Rashida while in this meeting and trying to act like she preaches too long and all this stuff, and it made her very upset and uncomfortable. When they stepped out of the meeting, she wanted to have a serious talk with Jeff, like, why are you always undermining me, da 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 da. He says, I'm not, da 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 da. We'll talk about all this later. And we see like she's this, at least this portrayal on this episode, she's kind of this suffering woman. I thought she was going to be this woman that didn't really have no voice and all that. The next episode is totally different to me. But Bridget was able to calm her down. She's asking questions like, are you guys okay? She's like, yeah. Tiffany's asking Geneva, is everything okay between her and William? Geneva doesn't want to say anything and just say, oh, we're good. Bridget's asking the same questions as to Rashida, and they're saying that also. So it's interesting. Of course, when you have marriages and relationships, some things you just can't say, especially in a marriage and amongst your girlfriend group. But it also seems like there's this hesitant to be vulnerable amongst the group. I don't know what it is, but she's considering uninviting Naomi, but Bridget calmed her down and still gonna let Naomi come. Rashida later has this counseling session with the young girl. She ends up confessing that she's sleeping with the pastor, Jeff, her husband. I said, what? What the? So we're on a good path here. The second episode, Old Flames and New Scars. So Rashida has this conversation with this girl, and this girl was like, do you forgive me? And Rashida says, yes. I said, what? This girl's just saying that she's having sex with her husband. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. So Rashida, she was very calm about the whole situation. I'm like, what the world is going on? She allows the girl to speak on where it happened and when did it start and how often is it. She was talking about she had went to Pastor Jeff to get counseling or to tell her about this boyfriend that just broke up with her, and he took her to her office and he began to kiss her, and she said no. But she claims that they have sex in his office every 3 months. So Rashida then takes the girl to Jeff's office, Pastor Jeff's office. And she says, describe, where did y'all have sex at? And she's like, I'm really uncomfortable. So then Rashida lays it on the line and reading scripture and all this stuff. And basically she knew that the girl was lying and was just looking for a quick money grab, because you came to me first and didn't even go to the police. And she was wondering what was going on with that. And then she's talking about she's suing. There it is. I got you. She shows her the cameras. She shows Jeff's calendar at where he's at all the time. Da 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 da. So there's no way that you and Jeff were having an affair. So she scares the girl off at this point. I was like, ooh. So I guess it's another one that bites the dust as attempting to go after the pastor. Typically, it's always a scandal and it's always the pastor is actually doing something. In this case, it's not. I could go from personal experience. I worked closely with a pastor, and there was a lot of scandal, and it wasn't even his fault. And I know it to be not true as far as the scandals that were kept coming out and the lies and all that. And a lot of it has to do with because the pastor would not sleep with them or have a relationship with them, they started all these lies. I know it to be true. So In this case, Jeff's not doing anything. However, there are some more suspicions as we get into this episode. Geneva. Geneva's at the office, and her assistant says, hey, there's this guy that's persistent on really wanting to speak with you. It's giving stalker vibes. What do you want us to do? You can send him in here. And they were like, you sure? Like, yeah. And we find out it's Javon. Javon is an old friend. We also find out that Javon and Geneva had an affair over 6 years ago. Later on, we're going to find out that he's friends with William and Geneva. This is like, oh, that's cringe. However, Javon says he's back in town and he's divorced from his wife, and he wants to pick up where he left off 6 years ago. It's like, never mind what Geneva got going on. It's just like, let's just start over. Let's just do it again. And it's just like, Geneva said, no, we're not going to do that. But we could tell that it deeply affected her, and it looks like she has some unresolved feelings towards this dude. Oh, now, Bridget. Or is it Bridget? Yeah, Bridget. This is the assistant of Rashida. She has a dude. He's a young dude. And now unemployed dude. He doesn't have much ambition, or he thinks that being a content creator, basically he has no drive. He just got fired from his last job that Bridget helped set him up. She sets him up on a lot of jobs, and in the end, he doesn't really come through. He wants to come to this banquet. She's like, well, you don't really have a black tie apparel. He said he got this suit from one of his jobs. And she's like, that is so tacky. But he's persistent on doing it, and she's going to let him come. So basically, she got a broke ninja in her home for whatever reason, maybe because he's young and the sex is good, but she's willing to put up with his trifling ways. So, oof. Geneva goes and visits with Rashida, and she just hashes out, Javon's back. She confessed to Rashida some time ago that she did have an affair. And Rashida's just asking her questions and discerning some things that are going on. Like, what about your marriage to William? Geneva says, William's great, but then there's Javon. And all I can think about is Jasmine Sullivan's In Love with Another Man. And if I could forget him, I would, but it's not that easy. I said, Lord Jesus. But yeah, it's giving that type of energy. So she doesn't think that she's going to go for Javon or whatever. But however, it's something when she's with Javon. So we're going to see how that ends up. But the dude is persistent, and how things are going with her and William, she may be tempted to go back to that old thing. But we haven't gotten to the best part. But before we get there, Naomi is stalking the girlfriend and sees things that even her ex-husband is posting. She feels that this dude is sneak dissing her, going to the same spots and vacation spots as she went with her husband with this new girl, saying how much it's better to do this the second time around and all that stuff. He might be doing that. He might, but that wasn't for you to see. And you want to see it. And none of your friends are reporting back to you. So you're setting yourself up to be a glutton for punishment to see all this stuff. That pisses her off, and she still wants to get revenge on him. What happens next? Okay. At Rashida's home, the children are disrespectful. We get a little bit more to the root of it. Jeff comes home. And again, I thought that Rashida was more of this docile type of woman that don't have a voice. She had a different attitude in front of Geneva when they were talking. Jeff comes home. At this point, Geneva leaves. Rashida sees Jeff on his phone, and he goes hush, and then tries to shut the door while Rashida's trying to listen. He gets off the phone, and they have another argument about this, like, who is this, da-da-da-da-da. And Jeff's like, it's none of your business and all that stuff. It's not what you want it to be. The children come up there and really just read them up and down. They don't want to get married. They don't like how it is because of how they preach. Their mom and dad preach something at church, but live a different life. And they said, couples do go through. We're actually giving you reality. But no, why are you teaching them one thing and then you're showing us a different thing? I'm with them on that. I'm sorry. So the children are very resentful towards these parents. And I think that they can't stand them and hate them at this point. Back at Geneva's home, everyone's getting ready for the banquet. Geneva William comes home, Geneva, they talk a little bit, and it's like Geneva's distant. And of course, she's affected about Javon coming to the office, but of course, she's not saying any of that. They speak about how it must be a heavy load to pick up Anika, and she was like, well, that's my child. Why would it be a heavy load? Da 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 da. Anika comes in, they hug. Anika was like, you weren't there to pick me up. I'm like, no, I had to work. But your mom was there. And she said, yeah, but you make it more fun. I was like, Lord. It's that type of relationship that's going on. Of course, Anika is a girl's dad. So after getting dressed and all that, she comes downstairs and sees that William has a guest. It's Javon. And that's when we realize that Javon and William are friends with the couple, basically. But he's acting like he's bros with this dude. And she's pretending that she didn't run into him earlier when he said he was divorced. He was giving an update on his life. And William wants Javon to meet Anika. We're finding out that William and Geneva had problems birthing Anika. They had problems getting pregnant. And they went through IVF treatments. However, Javon meets Anika and thinks it's quite interesting that Anika is named Anika. We don't know what that means as of yet. However, after meeting Anika, William goes and tucks in Anika. Javon asks, is Anika his child? Gosh. Geneva. I'm glad it's not just a one-sided show where it's going to be just the men doing something wrong to the women. I think we did need a balance, and somebody within the group needed to be kind of wrong. We can act like Naomi is the bad person within the group, but she's just really going through it as far as with her emotions regarding what's happened in her relationship in her life. Naomi says out loud what she feels. Tiffany says nothing about what's going on with her. So anyways, as I said, I'm locked in. I think the shows are going to be on Thursday. I thought the show would be on Tuesdays because the last time it premiered, it was on Tuesday, and then they released another episode on Thursday, which was episode 2. So it looks like it's coming out on Thursdays. However, how my schedule is, I don't know if I'll get to the episode as far as reviewing on Thursday because I have another show I review, and then next month, Sistas is going to come back. So that's like 3 shows all on the same day that I don't know how I'm going to do. At least by Friday and Saturday, I'll have out the reviews of either Divorced Sisters or Sisters. So I don't know. But anyways, I'm enjoying it. But y'all can tell me what you think of the characters and what you have any type of predictions of what's going to happen. Let me know. But I appreciate everyone, again, for coming to my channel. Like this video, subscribe, and leave your comments below. Until the next one, peace.